Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Cicero Planning Board meeting. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Mary, would you lead us off, please? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States. Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the March 6th meeting minutes. Are there any questions or comments? Do we have a motion to approve? Do
Motion to approve.
we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
Yes.
Mrs. Scanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Bloss.
Yes.
And I vote yes, minutes have been approved. Now we'll move to the public input. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board on any active application? Please come on up. Good evening.
My name is Donna Curtin and I own Grace Auto Body.
You hold on one second. I think we've got to turn the mic on.
Oh,
It's
she's nervous as H.
I'll be nervous.
Sticks. I own the property, 6300 East Taft Road. And I wanted to say that my neighbor, Mary Highcamp, I've known her all the 21 years I've been there, and I really enjoy having her as a neighbor. And the fact that I'm coming up against this, which is kind of coming up against her in a way, is really a little disheartening for me. So she has a right to develop her property, and I appreciate that. The issue that I have, and I've been to this board once before, has to do with the flooding on my property. I did have some great conversations with Steve, trying to go back on what kind of expired or happened all along from 20 years ago. The property on the right side of me was never graded properly. So there's a pooling of water on the right back quadrant of my property. This issue has steadily gotten worse. Now, it turns out that my property, I was supposed to have the property, but the neighbors on the other side were making a lot of trouble. So I said to Mr. Sitnick, who owned the land, why don't we just move my building over one property? Because I really didn't want to have any of these issues for either one of us. My site plan was developed at that point, which meant it was graded from one side to the other, completely graded to a giant swale, also completely graded to the back swale that was the airport, the airbase property. So when I moved over, that property to the right of me was supposed to have been graded, but it never was. I didn't really know any of this. I've sort of been dealing with this, and I actually started to file some complaints back in 2016 because the pooling of water back there it's like a pond, and it runs all the way along the backside of my property because that swale was there, and all the way down the left side of my property. So what's happening over time now is the swale is becoming mushier to the point where my gravel is, we can't even back cars into that part without it making ruts into what at one point was solid ground. So this just seems to be getting worse. And I did give Steve a video that 2 weeks ago, we walked the property. You could see the flooding. I mean, the water runs from the right side all the way down the front of my property, across the stones, all the way down to the swale. It's like a stream. And it's getting to be where the water going through the swale is a stream. So I virtually have probably 20% of my property that is useless. It's been useless and it's just growing. I had to pull a truck around the back of my yard today, and I noticed that the gravel in the back now is also starting to get really muddy. So I don't know what the answer to this is. I also like to point out that when I go up, I've gone up and down Taft Road. My property is the only one that's below road level. The properties to the right and left of me are above road level, up and down the road. Even where Dunkin' Donuts is, the property, they did have to put in like a drainage thing, but where they're at is all above the road level. So I'm really concerned about, and then the property to the right of me also doesn't have, I wouldn't have imagined enough impervious coverage. It's all blacktop. The back of it is stone. And there's only a small strip of grass on both sides of it and in the front. I have this nightmare that with another building going up now to the left side of me is going to really create a big flooding problem for me, where my own property is going to be, more of it is going to be rendered useless. Now, I realize it dries, but the point is, when we have water, when we have snow, it's not dry. It's just muddy, and I can't do anything with it. So I don't really know what site plan is for the building next to me, but I'm very concerned about what's gonna happen to my property. So I guess, I'm here to voice those concerns, and, hopefully we can figure out something. The people that want to build behind us, the Metropolitan Development, is that what it is? Or the Airport Authority. They actually came to talk to me after I was here at this meeting another time. And I appreciated that, because they were very concerned that I was concerned that I'm going to lose, my property is going to be unusable. I can't afford to have much more of my back property where I can't use it. My dumpsters are back there. I'm already where I'm driving through mud just to go to my back bay. And they told me they would get involved with me. They actually talked about putting in drainage, putting in pipes, and I realized they're big, they have the resources for that. But I'm kind of hoping that you'll give this some real thought and, keep me involved in what's going on, because, I see this property as possibly becoming, worthless. It's very difficult being a body shop now. I'm surrounded by conglomerates. I love what I do. I just want to be an independent body shop. And, I only have 2 employees. There's just the 3 of us. We have a steady customer base, a steady commercial customer base. I don't want to lose that. So short of getting on my hands and knees, I'd really appreciate if I could continue to be involved in, so I have some sense of comfort about this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would anybody else like to approach? Given nobody else is approaching, we'll close the public input and move on to our one agenda item. This is for a sketch plan review, property at 6306 East Taft Road, a proposed 7,344 square foot commercial use building. Tim Coyer will be representing that.
Good evening. Good evening. Doesn't seem like it's working. Good evening, Tim Coyer, I, New Zealand Romans Land Surveying. Yes, we are here for the property located on Taft Road immediately adjacent to, her property. We are proposing a roughly 7,300 square foot, building, with, I'm sorry, where's my, with roughly, 12 parking spaces on the, or 13 parking spaces on the site. It's access to one existing driveway on the north side of the site. So if you're looking at the map, this is East Taft Road up here, north is up. Proposed 7,300 square foot building. There's an existing driveway that's shared. This is, Hiawatha Fasteners. This is the proposed building, and actually, I believe the lady who just spoke, is right here. So we're gonna utilize the existing, common driveway. There is an easement for that we're gonna share. That's already in place, and we're gonna come into the site and, have our parking out front, and the building is set in the back. Right now, there's actually no use proposed for the site. It's the developer or property owner wants to build the building. In theory, if they build it, they will come type of thing. And then, lease it out or advertise it for leasing, yeah, after it's, built up. We show all the specific uses that there are, I'm sorry, uses that hours of operation, everything up here in the corner that they'd have to adhere to. Whoever comes in to lease this building has to adhere to, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or the maximum number of employees of at 5 at any time. If they decide that they want to deviate from any of that, they have to come back here for, a new site plan approval and use approval for the site. Fully, listening to the comments, by the neighbor. Everything basically, drains and Mark will look at the grading plan to these two culverts right here. Right now, we basically have everything sheet draining pretty much straight up to East Taft Road. I don't have a problem looking at the drainage again and try to sheet drain a little bit more away from the neighbor's property to, alleviate any potential issues with the drainage as possible. I mean, we have room. I can adjust the grading a little bit so that it more directly this way, but eventually it does get to this culvert and goes, to the north. We really didn't set the building height is set to exactly the same building height, elevation as the neighboring property. So we're doing minimal fill on the site. So we're not gonna try and, jack up the site and bring in a bunch of fill. So hopefully that'll also alleviate any drainage issues, but again, we don't have a problem re-looking at the grading to make sure we alleviate that problem as much as possible.
Thank you, Tim. We'll open up to questions. Mr. Duval?
Okay, so it's a shared where you come in.
Yep.
It's where Hiawatha Fasteners is.
Yep.
And you said there's an easement
Yep.
and you can. Okay,
So
come in
technically-
and
So
go to
technically
that parking,
speaking,
to your parking area.
yep, technically speaking, Hiawatha Fasteners' existing driveway is not on their property. It's actually crosses. So here's Hiawatha's property line right here. This is the existing driveway that Hiawatha Fasteners uses, and like it's actually on this person's property, but there's an easement right here for ingress and egress. It's there's a subdivision map that's filed and there's an easement in place.
It's all cleared or does it need to be cleared?
Cleared as far as,
Trees and all that?
yeah, for the most part, it's clear.
Okay, that's all I have for
Okay.
right now.
Mr. Abbey?
Along the west side of the property, would it be possible to put a swale from the bottom to the top to stop any?
That's what I'm gonna
Possible.
look at with the new grading. It's difficult with the amount of contouring and that's existing, but I can bring, there's a contour here that I can bring up and swale. And we might be able to try to swale some of this out of the back.
I'm sure every little bit would help.
I'm gonna absolutely try to take that all into consideration and grade it away from the neighboring property.
And a question on fire use for trucks coming in. Do they only have to hit the one side, not the other three sides, or be able to reach it?
Well, there is a hydrant right here.
Right?
So no matter what, and the property's only 250 50 feet deep as it is, so we're well within the 400 foot as far as being within 400 feet of that hydrant, so that shouldn't have any problems with that.
Okay, I was just thinking, you know, there's three sides that you can't get to.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Scanlon?
Hi.
Hi.
So I probably ask this question all the time. Does this fall within the area of our new design standard?
Yes.
It does.
It does, yep.
So we do have to bring in some architecturals or building elevations and stuff. We've asked the client for that. They just, RLS is doing the building, so they haven't given it to us just yet, so we will be bringing that in. We tried to adhere to all the landscape. We break down the planting schedule and the landscape schedule according to doing design standards, and we listed that all out too. So we are trying to adhere to that as much as possible.
And so does the parking need to be in the back?
I didn't think that it had to be the back, or does it have to? I thought it was.
You know, I'd have to look at it. Again. I don't think at this point, because the setbacks haven't been changed, require buildings to be closer to the road yet. Right.
You don't think so?
I thought it did.
So,
Maybe for residential multifamily developments. Say maybe, but I looked over what was passed for, you know, these types of developments, and there's no indication. All were fine. It indicated parking. I know that was discussed during our design sessions and review sessions to come up with those regulations. But I think it ends up being taken out because there's too many other things that need to be done. I think that setback issue.
Right. We would have to change the
Okay.
building setbacks and this may get refined later and then require that.
Okay.
Well, the design standards that they currently were adopted for this type of project, really the architectural elements and some of the landscaping are really the only things that apply. A lot of the other things are different. Then that's.
Understood.
building materials, we don't have to follow that.
No, you do.
We do.
You do.
We do.
That's the architectural part.
Do need to comply with the.
So what is the building material?
It's gonna be a metal frame building, and we're gonna, and again, the owner's supposed to be giving us some architecturals as far as what exactly the facades are gonna be made of. But we told them that they have to put some masonry on the fronts of the building to meet the code. We gave them the standards to make sure that they gave us something that meet the standards.
And I saw there's a fence too that'll be going up.
There's an existing fence along the back that's already there. So there's an existing chain link fence back here. Is that what you're discussing? I didn't think we
It's,
proposed a fence.
Is that a fence? On your page. Right here. Is that a fence? It's right here.
Oh, no, that's.
Sorry.
So, no, you're totally fine. You're pointing out the silt fence. So the silt fence is a temporary fence that we put in during construction to catch any and all silt that comes off the property while they have the site tore up.
Okay, good, because I was wondering why you had it at an angle like that. And I didn't know if we had any regulations about fencing types with the new design standards.
You do, but again, the silt fence is a temporary type. It's only like a little it's like a wooden cloth fabric fence that they put up just to keep silt from going onto the neighbor's property.
Okay, and is there any plans of putting sidewalks along this area of Taft Road?
I believe there's sidewalks on the other side of Taft Road.
No,
No, not.
nothing we have to worry about,
Okay.
but nothing we have to worry about, okay. That's all I had.
Mr. Bloss.
Question on where on the property to the west of what we're looking at here.
Yep.
You said you would entertain some kind of a swale.
Yep.
Is it reasonable to look at actually putting a pipe in there?
It could be. I could potentially look at that.
Would it,
Let me just draw that on here and think about that. It's not a terrible idea.
and
I
just
mean-
being an old farm boy, I'd feel more comfortable if we had some way we were piping that water to the storm drain in the front as opposed to a swale. With a swale, a lot of that water it will probably be absorbed into both pieces of property. But if we had it piped, I don't know, I just think it would run
That's not
off
a- That's not
better.
a bad idea. I'll try to, I'll look at that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe
Some type of.
a steel, yes. If a perforated under drain, if that would work better than a swale, yeah,
Well, yeah, I was going to, I am going to out with this, he did send me some information this morning. It brought like the concern on drainage, so I will take a look at this. I have been out here because we're looking at this site, I think just a couple down. Couple parts of the way. So I do know that culvert. I'll take a closer look, it looked like it was in good condition. Looked like it was clear, draining well.
Mhm.
To the north side of the site, there's a road. I would like to see a swale along that property line,
Okay.
cut off the drainage and either bring it to the swale in the back or to the swale in the front.
Okay.
Just to prevent drainage from being.
Yeah.
neighboring.
Okay.
Might, maybe also provide some kind of small detention or something. I know this is under an acre.
Yep.
But I'd like to see something bigger, mitigate the increase.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Very good thoughts on the drainage. I like that. So obviously without knowing the tenant, we're not gonna know what kind of parking is involved, and I know that you said that you agree.
Yep.
That if it exceeds
So,
5 employees,
yeah, so just a heads up, if I'm gonna start swelling that, we might lose a couple spaces over here, so I might actually drop the parking down a little bit.
it
which in
seems low
turn-
already to me.
I'm sorry, it seems low already. I get, well,
The property owner, her site right next door has got 23 spots. And of course, it depends on use,
yes, it's gonna definitely depend on.
and I'll leave that to the attorney to make sure that we have kind of control over that once a tenant is determined.
I'll look at that. I'll talk to the home property owner too.
Rest of my questions were asked. Mr. Wookie? Mr. Reeve?
I was gonna ask about the retention pond as well, because it looks like there's room up front, and you said that culvert, you know how big that culvert pipe is that goes across it?
24.
The 24.
It's 2 footer?
Yeah.
And, because it looks like very wet across the street, according to the topography on Google, it looks like.
Well, that was a time. Stuff that was ignored, you know.
And then with that, can you daylight a drain from the parking lot to alleviate some of that water coming off to the side to that retention pond? Is that something that would help?
Say that one more time. I
So
apologize.
the water that comes off the parking lot, I think you said the neighbor to the other side had a big paved area that was redirecting water off their property, if you will.
Oh, the person over here must be.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering with the parking lot, can there be a daylight drain there that maybe takes it to the retention pond and then away from the property?
It could be. We gotta look at it.
I think it's, well, this parking lot's probably too small to warrant the need
Yeah.
for a catch basin and a
Yeah.
drain system. And it could be good enough to sheet drain through the drainage facility. That's why I wanted to call it. It needs to swale on that.
And then,
western Property line.
and then we'll look at, some roof drains and direct them up front too.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Mr. Procopio?
My concerns were too relative to the potential use of the property, and hopefully we can maybe narrow it down to use types.
Okay.
Especially if we, if you get an approved site plan, I'd like to have a type of these folks can be able to move in and occupy the place without necessarily having to come back unless it's some major change to the site. So the types of uses that they're thinking of, because I mean, with the parking up front, I don't know. And the other thing is you don't have a layout for the interior building yet. Is there going to be a limited office space and then remainder storage, or they want to be flexible with that too? Because if you have a limited business or office area, you'd know
Yep.
how many people are going to be there.
I'll check that answer. I thought they were gonna try to be open with it with the initial floor plan, so they give somebody some flexibility with how they're gonna do it,
Yeah.
but I'll double check with the client.
Too, Tim, if you can just get that hydrant flow recent, or,
Oh,
most recent
yeah.
hydrant flow test.
It is, Ruby just submitted one for property owners.
I saw that at the end of the day. I'm wondering if it's the same idea. It's probably gonna be very similar, if not the same.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
We could-
100 feet, yeah.
so. That, I didn't look at it in detail, but that might be one, I would say the floater.
It might be. I'll have to go back and look, yeah.
Steve, all set?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Jermaine?
I'm just gonna amplify Steve's comments, because what you have here now is we'll rent out for commercial/industrial uses.
I think I get rid of the industrial part.
Not
too.
industrial.
That's an open book.
Because of the way the code's set up, we don't have prescriptive, parking regulations, say so many per square foot. We always rely upon the applicants to tell us, how many employees, how many, customers, we compare to other standards, those types of things. Typically, without a use, this is very difficult to say the parking is adequate.
It's impossible.
And especially since you've got a lot of this taken up by, the loading dock area, which then precludes you from having parking, expanded parking beyond what they really show. The other thing is because these property lines are skewed, you almost want to, and it would look very odd and not necessarily suggest you do it, but you almost want to take and rotate the building so it's parallel with the property line. In the site work.
Yeah, the site would work better if you rotated it, for sure.
And it's gonna look odd.
It'll look fun.
But the building also, I'll say, is certainly maximizing the setbacks. So you got the back corner,
Yep.
the front corner, right? So the width of that building, you can't make it any bigger for this site.
No.
Well, maybe it.
You can make it smaller, though.
You can. Kind of my point. But that, again, that issue goes away if you take it and again, twist it.
Yep.
And maybe you twist the building, but, at an angle on the front, so it looks parallel to the road. Yeah, so, and I'm sure that brings up things architectural building, but I'm just saying,
Yep.
This is max, and I'm not a fan of having the property or the parking lot, again, coming right up to the adjacent property. That's where all the snow is gonna get plowed and it's gonna end up.
Okay.
So. But I think that all the concerns that everybody's expressed, I think are valid and,
You all set, Mark?
yes.
Tim, anything else?
No, I will address all the concerns and make sure we talk to the property owner about all of them and make sure they're fully aware of what the town is looking for and go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Off to your next one.
Good luck and Clyde.
That concludes our agenda item. Is there any discussion from the team? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Do
Motion to adjourn.
we have a second?